This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 25. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Craig Finn from The Hold Steady. The band released their 8th studio record, entitled Open Door Policy, in February. In today's episode, Craig and I talk about the almost predictive nature of the record, his approach to lyric writing, and his love of the Replacements and Springsteen. Here we go. Our guest today is the frontman for one of America's greatest bar bands. The Brooklyn band includes Seth Meyers and Bruce Springsteen as some of their fans. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours from The Hold Steady, Craig Finn. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, my absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Congratulations on Open Door Policy, the new Hold Steady record. It is fantastic. It is another great record from yourselves, and it's the 8th in the back catalogue of the band. I will get into the record itself in a second, but I wanted to talk about the cover because I'm not sure if many Australians have kind of spoken to you about this already.
Well, yeah, the cover was funny because I was on a, kind of a personal journey and in a very frustrating way, trying to find the right album cover for this record. And a guy reached out and said, hey, if you ever want to use any of my photos, you should. And honestly, I don't normally look at that kind of thing. And I happened to, and there was one photo in there that just stuck with me. And it was I should say the guy, Dave McLaughlin, is from Perth. And the photo was in Perth, I believe. And it's a kind of a reflection in a laundromat glass. So you can see not only into the laundromat, but what's behind him. And to me, that sort of represented, there's a lot of mental health things on the record. And it sort of gave a kind of a two sides of every story vibe to that I thought matched well with the content of the record. But someone quickly pointed out that I think it's BWS. Is that the name of the? There's like a liquor chain reflected in there, which is something I didn't realize, but so that I think made it very more recognizable for Australians than I thought it was going to be. But I kind of love it. I love the fact that it's there, and there's also something about the idea of open door policy that we also got the back cover photo from a fan, another one of these kind of reflection, double exposure kind of photos. So the idea of kind of an open door policy with the fans and being able to get content from the community around the band, I think is really cool.
That is very cool. I think you guys do have quite a loyal and just anyone that I've spoken to about the Hold Steady and loves the Hold Steady, it does seem to be a very what's the word? Not even like a cult, but just kind of like they're very devoted fans to the band. And I know that they are.
It's not a cult in that we don't require them to turn over all their money to us, but it is a really strong community, and it's funny. It's something we talked about since the beginning of the band, wanting to have a band that people could feel a part of, and somehow we did it. There's some parts I know what we did, but there's some parts that just people met us halfway, and it's just such a beautiful thing, and makes me feel spectacular.
Of course, One thing I did want to talk to you about today, I guess, is the fact that you guys are so, I think, accessible is one way to put it, in terms of that it's not big arena rock, but it's also the personas of yourself and all your other band members are quite personable, and that the stories of the band are, everyday Joes and the struggles of everyday life. Was that intended when you started?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things we kind of wanted to do with this band from the beginning was to take some of the stuff that came from punk rock, like, trying to, lessen the divide between the band and the audience, and not, and I don't think I would register to anyone as a proper rock star, but to have this idea of regular people. And we were already older when we started the band. I was in my 30s. We all were, really. And, so I think that, there's something there, but that said, we kind of wanted to combine it with not punk rock or not hardcore, but with kind of a classic rock sound. And so there's almost a juxtaposition, almost a strange bedfellows of, what we think of as classic rock met with very approachable people, approachable situations that is maybe different than, just to throw to, like Mick Jagger or Steven Tyler or Robert Plant or something, that you don't get to hang out with after the show, etc.
Yeah. Do you guys find that you have people approach you after the show and kind of treat you as if they've known you for a while?
Yeah, and that's a really nice thing. I mean, sometimes you need a little space after the show, but I love going out after the show. I love going to the pubs after and talking to people. And I mean, people tell us really amazing things, and it's an honor to have people have that music be part of their lives. And I've had people share very, very personal things about what the music means, and that's a huge reward and a blessing to be able to be a part of all this.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. The album, going back to Open Door Policy, was recorded mainly in 2019, and then obviously I'm not going to rehash the events of the last 12 months. We all know what happened. But what's it been like, I guess, sitting on this album and having it come out now after all this time? Is it a bit of a release?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the funny thing about this record is, we did it in 2 sessions, August and December of 2019. It was almost done. I mean, we had a little bit of work, but it was almost done when 2020 started. And then, the events happened, and we kind of waited a little bit. Maybe we thought, if we wait a little bit, we can tell when shows are going to happen, and we'll be able to time it right for some rock shows, But the record, when we were writing it, 2019 felt like a heavy year to me. It feels rather quaint now, but 2019, especially in the States, was, there's a politically divided country. There's income inequality, and I was thinking a lot about mental health stuff already back then. And then 2020 comes, and all these issues just get blown up. It's like, they got inflated. So it's kind of almost like the album aged well. The stories we were telling made even more sense after the year we've just had. And so eventually it just became like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. We should just put it out before it gets old. So it does feel extra good to have it out after that long wait. And then people seem to really like it, and that feels great too. And that's a huge bright spot when you've been sitting home for a year, to have some of that, things coming back to you.
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned, the record does touch on topics like technology, mental health, and capitalism. And as you said, last year, it inflated those quite a bit. For yourself, was it kind of a little bit funny to be sitting on the record knowing that you've got these things that are aging? Like, my mind, was it almost like a Nostradamus style thing of?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that, to me it did. Although these are stories that are, people have to kind of listen and pay attention to get that out of them. So it wasn't like, we're releasing a record called Mental Health or whatever, but these stories were, are in there. I knew that they would resonate with people, and as all these things we talk about, and technology is a huge part of the record. People are constantly, look, I mean, we're on this thing, Squadcast, but Zoom basically, like how much time did I spend on Zoom before 2020? None. And, so all this technology, the way we communicate, it evolves even in these strange times.
Yeah, definitely. When it does come to your lyrics, you are known for being quite a dense lyricist and extremely great at storytelling. Was this something that, I guess, when you started the band, was it something that came naturally, or was it, I guess it's easy to fall into repetition when it does come to songwriting? Was it kind of like a conscious effort for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes on before this band. I mean, it was always like the songs I liked were the songs that told stories, right? So, when I started writing my own songs, I wanted to write songs that told stories. And, the first few years of attempts were pretty clumsy, but eventually sort of developed this style of, a lot of words and a lot of, a lot of images kind of coming to tell a story, and, throwing things out kind of quickly to people. But yeah, I mean, a lot of that is just, comes from things I like, I liked, and I always just liked a song that told a story, whether it's even, even starting with like, Johnny Be Good or something like that. Chuck Berry, that would always pull me in. And I've always liked reading, but there's something about telling a story in a 3 or 4 minute song that's just super satisfying to me.
I definitely agree with that. I have seen online that there's, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, there's sites or people that have compared the Hold Steady to quite a lot of hip hop artists, just in terms of the kind of narrative that you can get across in that. Have you found that, or are you, I guess, a big hip hop fan yourself?
I mean, I can't say that I have kept up with hip hop. There's been points in my life where I've known more. But I would say, one thing that I think in a very simple way of saying that is, I mean, both myself and hip hop tend to have a lot of words. And also, I don't tend to hold notes really, it's very percussive. So like, it's almost like one beat, one syllable, So I think in that sense, there's a lot of connection there. And I also think that, one thing I've always loved about hip hop is there's a wanting to be the best. There's a wanting to be the best at lyricism. And, I'm a mediocre guitar player, and, but I do believe, I do always want the lyrics. I think that's what I bring to the Hold Steady, and I want to do the best at my job.
Yeah, no, of course. The record is the 8th in the back catalogue, as we said before, and it's the second record with the band as a 6-piece compared to the 5-piece. How has that dynamic kind of changed across the last 2 records?
It's amazing. I mean, it's funny to, be this far into the band, and we have our best lineup, Franz was in the band, he left, Steve came in at that point, and this is the first time we've had them both on stage together. So it's the super steady a little bit, Hold Steady 3.0. And I think the story of the band right now and the success in my mind of musically of this record is that those guys had a challenge that they, suddenly they're both here together and they have to figure out where the space is for both of them. And luckily, they, on a personal level, they got along right away, and musically they clicked too, and sort of found each of their spaces. And I think that has defined this. The last record, but also especially this record. This record is sort of that the next step of that, realizing that sound and where everyone and it's, there's 6 people now, so there's a lot of stuff. But I think figuring out where everyone goes, kind of in the the sonic, the map or whatever, however you want to visualize it. But yeah, figuring out where everyone goes, and I think that Franz and Steve a massive part of that development in this band.
When the band does come together to write music, is it something that you'll bring lyrics to and then they'll flesh out musically, or is it the other way around, or a combination?
Oh, no, really the reverse. And in the whole study, I generally just write the lyrics. What's kind of been the mode of operating in the past few years. So Franz lives in California and Steve lives in Memphis. So we're not all in New York. Most of us are, but so we kind of have the technology thing a little more as part of it as we used to. They'll usually send me bits and pieces, and it'll usually be like a part or two, and I'll write some lyrics, and then there's sort of a second part when we are able to be together. We all get in the same room and sort of show, see how it's all fitting together. At that point, someone might say, "Oh, I think I have another part that'll work for this song." We kind of, so we arrange it in the room, but we kind of all have a head start because of the technology and the sharing of files. So, and that's something that's new. I mean, we used to go into the room and like stare at each other, and I think it's better for us to be a little more efficient now because we're all older, but we used to, at the beginning of the band, it was just getting a bunch of beer and going into the room and seeing what happened, but not everyone has like 8 hours a day to put towards that nowadays. So it's good we're a little more efficient, but it's generally me writing words to their music, and usually the stuff they're bringing to me is pretty inspirational to me, and also tends to be big in sound. So I'm always kind of trying to create stories that sort of cinematically will match the music.
One of the things you just mentioned in terms of hanging out in bars, things like that, you guys are known very much for your live show, being one of the best bar rock bands before taking it to big arenas, still in that same kind of spirit. Did you find it difficult last year to not be able to kind of play shows
Yeah, I mean, there's something about like the actual show, the communing with the audience that is, besides being thrilling, it's also kind of addictive, you know what I mean? And it's a huge part of what we've been doing for some time. But I'll tell you what's even more interesting that I found was, I missed the travel, which I knew I would, staying home gets boring. But some of the travel things I missed were like being weirdly like not stuck, but like, just having a beer at like the hotel bar the night before the show when your flight got in and you just, seeing the guys and having a beer in the hotel, like just the kind of stuff that you didn't know you'd really miss. But, these like little things that end up being really important and part of the whole experience, that somehow I miss just as much as the shows, really. Just those in between moments that are really special.
Sometimes I feel like it kind of can be not even necessarily mundane, but it's the little intricacies that tie them together that you miss as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all part of it, right? Like it's like you don't think you love sound check, but like you start to miss sound check, or like you're like that weird, between sound check and like the show, that weird time to kill, and it's like, oh, I wish I just, sometimes I'll just go take a walk and disappear, and like those are really nice moments, especially when they're suddenly taken away from you.
Yeah, of course. This weekend just gone by, you had the virtual The Weekender at the Brooklyn Bowl. How was that, finally getting to be able to play some shows, although distanced and online? They were fantastic to watch.
They were really fun, and I mean, for starters, just plugging in the amps, and hearing a kick drum, in your chest is amazing. And like I said, Franz and Steve live out of town, so while I see the other guys occasionally, it's great just to have all six of us together, and And so there's that's alone is cause for celebration. The shows were really amazing. And, we had monitors all around the club and we could see people, rocking out, we could see people experiencing the shows. And that makes it a lot easier to play. You're still playing to an empty room, which is distracting. It's like way more distracting than playing a normal show because you're like, sometimes, but really seeing all the people around, from literally around the world, like, holding up signs, holding up their pets, dancing, whatever. It's just an amazing thing. And it speaks to the community around the band. And I said it, I said it in December when we did our shows in December similarly, but, as a reminder of everything we've lost, our ability to play in front of people, but it was also really a reminder of what we have and what an amazing group of people are around this band.
Definitely. You guys do have, as we discussed before, quite a community behind you that loves you, including a few famous faces as well. I know that Seth Meyers is quite a big Hold Steady fan.
He's a big supporter. Yeah, he's been a great supporter. We played his shows a lot. I've actually 1 week I actually sat in with the band for a week too, which is a testament to how good he's been to us, because that band doesn't really have a vocalist or need one, and still I got a job I was able to do that for a week. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, he's been really kind to us.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
I know the band wrote a song for his Netflix special, Lobby Baby. When people like that reach out to you for, I guess, with requests kind of like that, is it nice to know that your songs are resonating and are enjoyed by, I guess, certain people in high places?
Yeah, it's anyone enjoying our work is great, but there's these nice nods. It's things like that. We wrote a song for the Game of Thrones. We recorded a song for Game of Thrones. We were on the TV show Billions. Those are all things because the creators of those were like, we want you to do this. And that's like, anytime you're able to interface with people that are doing creative things at that high of a level, it's a great opportunity and a great feeling and exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, of course. Craig, would you be happy to talk about the playlist that you sent through?
Yes. Let me look. Well, I know the first song I wrote is whenever I get asked to do anything like this, I always put a song first because it's I Will Dare by the Replacements, and it's my favorite song. It's just I'm one of those people that says that has a favorite song. And if you ask me my favorite song, I know it right away. It's the first song on my favorite album, which is Let It Be by the Replacements. And the Replacements are from my hometown of Minneapolis. We're going to hear some other Minneapolis artists on. But they were like the first band I got into I got into them on it was their third album, Hootenanny, or their, depending on how you count them. But, so I will, Let It Be, their album that came out in October 84, was the first album I ever remember waiting for it to come out. Like, there was a new release that I was really looking forward to. And I got it, and I went home and I put this on, and the first song's I Will Dare, and I've just always loved it ever since then. And I just think it's a very romantic song. It reminds me of fall. We're not here you're in different, you're in autumn, getting towards autumn, right?
We're just heading into autumn, correct?
Okay, yes. So perfect timing. I hadn't thought of that, but it's definitely an autumn song for me. Okay, so backing up, that's my favorite song. I Will Dare by the Replacements. So backing up, my first favorite song ever was Saturday Night by the Bay City Rollers. And people, I love this song always, and I think when I first got into it, it's because it spells out Saturday night, Saturday night. And I think probably when I first heard it, I was learning to spell. So it was exciting, to have a song with spelling in it. But also the Bay City Rollers had a TV show on when I was young. And I think when I saw they had this, a bunch of guys hanging out in a band, and it looked like so much fun to be in a band. And I think it was very influential on me to want to be in a band because of the sort of joy they seem to be having. And later on, maybe not that long, I probably got into this when I was 7. And, probably by the time I was 12, I was getting interested in punk rock. And, there might seem to be a big jump between the Bay City Rollers and, punk rock. But if you listen to things like the Ramones or, a lot of early punk, it's 3 chords trying to be as catchy as possible, so is the Bay City Rollers. And there's almost like a football chant to the Bay City Rollers, a lot of their songs. So I think that they might be like kind of early proto-punk in some way, at least in my mind.
It's a very unique take on the Bay City Rollers. I'll pay that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Well, moving on. Another Minneapolis band. I think that if you want to put I came of age in Minneapolis when music was, it was a high point. I mean, there were bands in my hometown that were making national waves. And, Minneapolis, where I grew up, is a small Midwestern town. It's a small Midwestern city, I guess you'd say. So it's not the kind of place that you feel like the most important bands of the era are necessarily going to be jumping out of. And all of a sudden there was the Replacements, the aforementioned Replacements, and sort of what, critically might be called their brother band, or sister band, brother band, Who's Purdue, who was making music at the same time, making loud, fast, very melodic, extremely intelligent and interesting music. And I was head over heels. And they put out records all the time. They put out more than one record a year, and it was so amazing. And me and all my friends loved them, and it was they kind of kept it coming. But I think for me, my favorite is their album New Day Rising, and they have a song called "Celebrated Summer." Just past your summer, sorry, but it talks about summer in this very romantic way. About I think he says getting drunk out on the beach or playing in a band. When getting out of school and getting out of hand. And I always thought that was really exciting. And I ended up, the Hold Steady ended up writing a song called Constructive Summer, which is a little bit of a nod to this. The idea that, something you can use your summer to do something really awesome.
Yeah.
Next on my list is another Minneapolis artist, which is a different, from a different scene, if you will. But something that's so important to me now and forever is Prince. And my favorite Prince song is probably this song, Uptown. And it speaks of the uptown area of Minneapolis, which is where I would loiter when I was a kid. And, you took the bus uptown and you went and you smoked cigarettes and you looked and see if anyone else was hanging out. And I think that, when you grow up in a smaller city and you have an artist like Prince, who's obviously an international megastar, who not only is from there, but didn't leave there. It kind of gives you an idea that like, hey, this place is pretty cool. Like, Prince, it's good enough for Prince. It's good enough for me,
He was a very big advocate for the state.
And yeah. And so I think that, when he died, obviously it was very, I said to a friend, the one thing was, it's not like I was hanging out with Prince, but there was something a little bit like Batman, that it was good to know he was out there. It was good to know he was nearby. And I think the city loved him so much. And in some ways, it's hard to, it feels like it's hard to recover from his death, because I think I've never been so honestly grieved someone I didn't know personally, but it was that kind of loss.
Yeah.
The next song I chose is Hitsville, UK by The Clash. And it's a strange song in some way, a strange song to select, but The Clash are one of my all-time favorite bands. They might be number 2 after The Replacements. And I think what I really respect about The Clash is their body of work. And, when this album, Sandinista, came out, it was a triple album. And people, every rock critic said, oh, it should have been 1 album. It should have been 2 albums. This is just too much, And because it's meandering, maybe. But then I say, now The Clash has been broken up for many, many years. And I'm just glad to have all the music that they've made. Like each and every song is a blessing. And this is a very, cool, catchy, you wouldn't say it's like the quintessential Clash song. But I think it is a great idea of them always reaching and trying to do something new. And that's why they needed three pieces of vinyl on some albums. And I think Ellen Foley, the singer, is on this record. She was dating Mick Jones on this song. And she actually shows up in one of the early Hold Steady songs, Certain Songs. I say Ellen Foley gives us hope because she also sang on the classic Meatloaf track, Paradise by the Dashboard Light. And so there's this sort of inside baseball, sorry, that's probably a really American term, but I think you know what I mean, like this sort of trivia-ness of rock and roll, which I also love, like tracing the little lines and the liner notes.
Yeah, almost not like an inside joke, but more just like almost like an Easter egg, if you will.
Yeah, it's like the kind of trivia, like, do you know who that voice is? Do you know what else she sang on? Oh, have you heard that? Etc. So I love that. I mean, that's part of the fun of rock music for me and being a fan. And speaking of being a fan, one of my obvious heroes and probably some would say an obvious influence is Bruce Springsteen. And he is. I mean, Bruce is a hero, and not only for his music, but I think for the way he lives his life. And I think that's meant a lot to me. I came to Bruce Springsteen in my early 20s, not super early. I was, I was into punk and hardcore before that, and I kind of got to him, and then sort of it broke open for me, and I was like, this guy is amazing, and the descriptions he talks about. But what I love about this song, which is Racing in the Streets, is especially as I've gotten older, I really love songs about, people that are a little older. And, there's a million songs about teenagers riding in convertibles with the wind rushing in their hair. And I become more attractive to songs about people who might feel a little bit stuck. And I think Bruce really writes well about these kind of adults. And Racing in the Streets is amazing. I mean, I think in the right in the beginning, in the first verse, he mentions, me and my partner's son. So it's like, whoa. There's a stepson in this song. Like, I mean, that's already like levels of complexity that you just don't get from fun, and Daddy took the T-bird away. Like it's evolving. It's an art form that's evolving at this point, and he's writing these complex, very human stories, and that's why I've always loved this song.
Do you remember who introduced you to Springsteen?
I mean, I was always aware of Springsteen because I mean, I had, you know, I'd heard Born to Run on the radio, and I always liked that song. And then Born in the USA came out, and I just sort of, I didn't really understand the depth of it. And, you know, it was very successful at a time where I was kind of seeking out the underground, you know, so I was sort of suspicious of it. And there were some people that were really into it in college that I knew that, but I didn't really get into it then, but I knew I respected these people and respected their love for Bruce. So I sort of had to on my own. And what it took was going all the way back to the beginning. You know, the Greetings from Asbury Park, and hearing that sort of electrified Dylan, kind of that fast talking and the sort of beat poetry of it all. And I think I first had to fall in love with that kind of rhythm and blues sound of the first two records, and how fun it was. I mean, it's really joyous. And I think that's why I think with this whole steady 6-piece lineup, the more people on stage, I feel like the more it feels like a party, you know, and now we have a horn section too. Oftentimes it shows, like, you know, so this past weekend we had 9 people on stage, and that always, I mean, I think the E Street Band is something I've always aspired to. In some ways, this 6-piece lineup, the whole steady, feels like the E Street Band when you know, when they got back together and they had Little Steven and Nils. It's sort of that, you know, you get everyone now, and that feels good. So that's, you know, there's a million Bruce songs, but that one is just that one feels to be exactly, you know, what I like now. You know, like, yeah. Or I'm, you know. And next one is a little more modern. Future Me Hates Me by the Beths. And this song is just, I think I'll always remember as I discovered it during the pandemic. 2020, I was taking walks at the first part of the pandemic. I mean, I think there was like a lot of information more about, like, you know, touching things, and, you know, like less about aerosol. And so everyone was, you know, like, and my partner's a nurse. So she was working with COVID patients at a hospital. I had to move out of the house because for safety reasons, we didn't have much separation. And so I moved in with a family member, and sort of to calm myself, I was taking these walks by myself with headphones. And this song would always cheer me up. Like, this song just always made me, the melody and the vocals are just so incredible. And it was kind of like a weird bright spot of the pandemic. And I just remember walking through the park a lot, and in Brooklyn, where I live, and just it was like one thing that made me feel better. And that's something really sweet, really beautiful about music, that it can take you away a little bit, and escapism. And that's what it felt like, a bit of an escape from some of the heaviness that was going on at the time.
It is, having a quick look at the whole list, it is probably the most modern song on there. How do you kind of, I guess, come across new music? Is it a thing where people recommend it, or you go out actively searching for it?
Both. Yeah. I mean, searching, like I'll just, I mean, I listen to, there's a radio station back home in Minneapolis that I stream, you know, so if I hear something on that, sometimes that, will get me. I read things, like there's some stuff, you know, and then just, you know, because of what I do, like some people, you know, I'm around people who talk about music, you know, but that one definitely came from The Current, the station in Minneapolis. That's how that got to me. And I'm kind of I definitely try to keep up on new music. Like, I usually like have a couple little playlists going of things, you know, and at least, you know, try to check out things. And then I have kind of like, I have kind of this sort of weird master playlist that's like, you know, 800 songs long, that like if you get really good, you get moved over to there. And that's just kind of my general walking around music. And there's enough on it that I shuffle it, and things don't come up that often, but it's all songs that I've kind of given approval to.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty nerdy. So, but, you know, backing up a little bit, this is chronologically, this playlist isn't really telling the story in the right order, but I'm jumping around a little bit. But in 2002, I didn't have a band. I'd moved to New York in 2000, and I'd been in a band in Minneapolis, and I moved to New York in 2000. 2002, I went and saw a band called the Drive-By Truckers, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. And I said, I have to be in a band now. Like that's all it can be. They were too good. I need to be in a band. I wanted to be in a band like that, and I want to have fun like those guys. And what struck me about the Drive-By Truckers is that they weren't of the moment in like an indie sense. They were playing a classic sound. And I said, I remember thinking about like that they were built to last, meaning they weren't going to go any more in or out compared to like, what the sounds are going to be next year or the year after that. So they won't ever be totally of the moment, but they also won't ever be totally out of style. They'll just be, stay in the course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something we really tried to do when we started to Hold Steady. And it was very much in the model of the Drive-By Truckers, which is great because within a few years, we got our music to the Drive-By Truckers and became good friends and toured with them. And Patterson remains a great friend of mine, and we talk fairly often. And this song, Let There Be Rock, is kind of like they played that the first night I saw them, and I remember just going out of my mind. It speaks to sort of the mythology of rock and roll and how we put things on pedestals in weird ways, and it just makes me want to like throw my beer up in the air every time I hear it, especially when it gets to the guitar solo. So I don't have any beer here, so I'll keep the carpets clean. Which leads me to my final, and I think this is the most recent discovery, if you will, on the list, and it's by Cassandra Jenkins, who is a friend who also sang at least one of my solo records, as well as the new Hold Steady record, and coincidentally put out a record of her own on the day that Open Door Policy came out, and she had a song called Hard Drive, and she actually toured with me in late 2019. She was doing that. She was closing her sets with this song, and then she was also performing with my band on a solo tour. And this song felt like a living, breathing thing. Like it kind of changed night to night, and she was loose enough with it that it was really exciting to watch it develop. And no surprise, like songs that have some talking in them. And this one is just a perfect thing of just like this very spiritual and very open to possibility kind of thing. And it's also a very New York song, which I love about it. She's a lifelong, born and bred in New York, where I am a transplant. But it speaks to something awesome about New York and like kind of meeting people and some of the interactions you have, unplanned interactions, and how they can kind of affect your day. And the whole record's amazing. Cassandra Jenkins, Hard Drive.
I'll make sure we also include a link to Cassandra's work as well as Open Door Policy, obviously, in the show notes. Craig, thank you very much for your time today. I do appreciate it.
Oh man, it was a blast.
That's very kind. Again, the new record is Open Door Policy from the Hold Steady. It is out now. Thank you again to Craig Finn.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Craig Finn and the Hold Steady. Their 8th record, Open Door Policy, is out now. We've left links in the show notes if you'd like to buy the vinyl from Cooking Vinyl Australia. We also want to give a huge shout out to Jo at Jo Corbett Publicity for helping out with today's interview. You can find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes, where you'll be able to listen to all of Craig's picks. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday morning with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the playlist profile on Spotify, and you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Until next week, cheers.
This podcast is brought to you by eHarmony, the dating app to find someone you can be yourself with. Why doesn't eHarmony allow copy and paste in first messages? Because you are unique, and your conversations should reflect that. eHarmony wants you to find someone who will get you. How are you going to know who gets you? If people send you the same generic conversation starters they message everyone else. Conversations that actually help you get to know each other. Imagine that. Get who gets you on eHarmony. Sign up today.